In 1614, Tokugawa Ieyasu assembled a massive force of more than 200,000 men and marched on Osaka Castle, determined to crush the last resistance to his rule. His army outnumbered the defenders 10-1. Victory seemed inevitable, but Osaka Castle was no ordinary fortress. It was a masterpiece of military engineering, built by Japan's finest strategists. Wave after wave of Tokugawa soldiers charged the walls, only to be funneled into narrow killing zones where defenders unleashed arrows and gunfire from concealed positions. Those who managed to break through the gates found themselves trapped inside deadly courtyards, boxed in by towering walls lined with gun ports, with nowhere to run and no shelter to hide behind. In a single assault, hundreds were cut down before even reaching the inner defenses. This was not luck or chance. It was centuries of Japanese warfare transformed into architecture, a fortress built to think like a general and kill like an army. Japanese castles didn't start as the elaborate fortresses we recognize today. Early medieval strongholds were little more than wooden palisades built on hilltops, temporary defenses that could be abandoned when the enemy grew too strong. But during the Sengoku period, from 1467 to 1615, Japan's long age of civil war, everything changed. For 150 years, Japan tore itself apart. Warlords fought endlessly for territory, testing defensive strategies in the crucible of constant warfare. Every siege revealed weaknesses. Every breakthrough demanded new countermeasures. Castle architecture evolved rapidly, incorporating lessons written in blood. By the late 16th century, Japanese military engineers had perfected something extraordinary. Castles that didn't just resist attackers, but actively destroyed them through calculated design. The most visible feature of Japanese castles is the Ishigaki, massive dry stone walls that curve gently outward as they rise. These weren't just barriers, they were tactical nightmares for attackers. Unlike European castle walls, which rise vertically and can be scaled with ladders, Ishigaki walls curve outward at the top. This seemingly subtle angle makes climbing nearly impossible. Ladders can't find purchase against the convex surface. Soldiers attempting to scale the wall find themselves leaning backward, unable to gain leverage. The stones themselves tell part of the story. Master craftsmen shaped each massive block to fit perfectly with its neighbors, creating surfaces so smooth that handholds simply don't exist. Some walls rise 40 feet or more, high enough that falling meant painful death or crippling injury. But the real genius wasn't stopping climbers. It was exposing them. Anyone attempting to scale an Ishigaki wall spent minutes completely vulnerable, moving slowly up an open surface, while defenders above had perfect firing position. If Ishigaki walls were passive defenses, Masugata gates were active traps, designed to annihilate any attackers who managed to breach the perimeter. When an enemy force broke through the outer gate, already believing they had won a crucial victory, they didn't enter the castle proper. Instead, they found themselves in a square courtyard enclosed by towering walls on all sides. The only exit lay at a sharp right angle from the entrance, often hidden in a corner, forcing attackers to turn and expose their flanks to defenders positioned above. Now the trap sprung shut. The walls of these courtyards were lined with small openings called sama, loopholes that allowed defenders to rain arrows and gunfire on anyone trapped below. There were rectangular slits for archers, known as yasama, and square or circular ports for gunners, called teppo-sama. They were placed at different heights and angles, creating overlapping fields of fire that left no safe place for the attackers to hide. Attackers packed into the Masugata found themselves in a kill box with nowhere to hide. The walls were too high to scale quickly. Retreat meant fighting back through the gate they just breached, now blocked by their own troops still pushing forward. Advance meant exposing themselves to concentrated fire while trying to break through a second, heavily fortified gate. At Himeji Castle, defenders could bring nearly 1,000 firing positions to bear on attackers trapped in the Masugata courtyards. The geometry was perfect, converging fire from three sides, no cover, no escape routes. But Japanese castle defenses didn't stop at static killing grounds. The entire layout was designed to confuse, disorient, and exhaust attackers before they ever reached the keep. Himeji Castle, considered the pinnacle of Japanese defensive architecture, is essentially a three-dimensional maze. The path from the outer gate to the main keep zigzags through a labyrinth of walled passages, blind turns, and deliberately deceptive routes. Paths that appear to lead toward the keep suddenly dead end. What looks like a main thoroughfare becomes a narrow alley where only two men can walk side by side. Gates open onto steep slopes that force attackers uphill, while defenders fire down from above. The genius was in the details. Walls positioned to create blind corners where ambushes waited, passages that twisted back on themselves, disorienting attackers who lost track of which direction they'd come from. Paths that seemed to offer progress, but actually led nowhere strategic. Attackers who finally fought through one section would find themselves right back where they started, having spent hours, ammunition, and lives to advance maybe 50 yards. Meanwhile, defenders moved freely through hidden passages behind the walls, repositioning to hit the exhausted attackers from unexpected angles. This wasn't accidental, it was calculated psychological warfare. Exhausted, disoriented soldiers make mistakes. They break formation, they lose coordination, they become vulnerable. Walk through a reconstructed Japanese castle today, and you'll notice odd rectangular openings in the floors near walls, usually in towers or gates. These are ishiotoshi, stone-dropping windows. The concept was brutally simple. Attackers who reached the base of a wall or tower found themselves directly beneath these openings. Defenders could drop rocks, boiling water, or burning materials straight down onto the heads of soldiers packed against the walls below. But ishiotoshi served another function. They prevented blind spots. Castle walls created dead zones where attackers directly against the fortification couldn't be targeted by archers on the walls. Stone-dropping windows eliminated those safe zones, ensuring that every approach to every wall remained under fire. At key defensive positions, gates, corners, weak points in the walls, multiple ishiotoshi could concentrate fire on tiny areas. An attacker trying to break through a gate might face rocks dropping from 4 or 5 different positions simultaneously, all within a space barely 3 meters across. Perhaps the most devastating defensive feature was the loophole system. Japanese castles incorporated hundreds, sometimes thousands, of firing positions called sama, carefully positioned to create overlapping fields of fire that left no safe approach. These weren't simple arrow slits. Japanese engineers designed specialized openings for different weapons and tactical situations. Vertical rectangular slots, yasama, allowed archers to track moving targets up and down steep approaches. Square ports gave matchlock gunners the wider angle needed to aim early firearms. Triangular openings in specific positions created firing lines that converged at choke points attackers had to pass through. The positioning was what made this deadly. Walk the defensive perimeter of a major Japanese castle, and you'll realize every approach, every path, every gate, every courtyard sits under fire from multiple positions simultaneously. Engineers calculated exact angles to ensure attackers couldn't advance without exposing themselves to concentrated fire from several directions at once. At Himeji Castle, defenders positioned sama at different heights on the same wall section, some at ground level, some at mid-height, some near the top. This created vertical killing zones where archers on different levels could maintain continuous fire even as attackers tried to use shields or find cover. The psychological impact was devastating. Attackers never knew which loopholes harbored defenders and which were empty. Every opening represented potential death, forcing soldiers to advance expecting fire from all directions simultaneously. The siege of Osaka in 1614 to 1615 demonstrated just how effective these defenses were. Tokugawa Ieyasu commanded the most powerful army in Japan, veterans of countless battles equipped with the latest weapons and siege technology. The castle's outer defenses included earthworks designed by Sanada Yukimura, one of Japan's greatest military tacticians. The Sanada Maru, a specially constructed fortification protecting Osaka's southern approach, became a slaughterhouse. Tokugawa forces launched repeated assaults, Each time, attackers found themselves funneled into prepared killing zones, where castle defenders could concentrate matchlock fire. The curved walls prevented siege ladders from working effectively. The Masugata gates turned breakthrough attempts into massacres. Soldiers who penetrated the outer defenses discovered they'd merely reached the next layer of an intricate death trap. Sanada's troops didn't just defend passively, they launched counterattacks from hidden sally ports, breaking through Tokugawa siege lines 3 separate times. The fortifications gave defenders the positional advantage to dictate when and where fighting occurred. After weeks of catastrophic casualties, Tokugawa Ieyasu abandoned frontal assault. Instead, he negotiated a false peace, demolished the outer defenses under the treaty terms, then returned to finish the siege the following year against a partially dismantled castle. Even then, it took an army of 200,000 men, multiple assaults to finally overwhelm the defenders. The castle wasn't conquered, it was ground down through overwhelming numerical superiority after its most lethal defenses were removed by treaty. European castle design evolved around different tactical realities. European sieges often lasted months or years, with attackers trying to starve defenders out while occasionally attempting assaults. Walls prioritized height and strength to resist siege engines and mining operations. Japanese siege warfare was faster and more aggressive. Attackers couldn't wait for months. Political situations shifted too rapidly during the Sengoku period. Every warlord needed victories quickly before allies changed sides or enemies formed new coalitions. This created different defensive priorities. Japanese castles weren't designed to hold out indefinitely. They were designed to kill so many attackers so quickly that assault became unthinkable. The goal wasn't passive resistance, it was active destruction of enemy forces. The introduction of firearms accelerated this evolution. By the late 16th century, Japanese armies had more guns per soldier than most European forces. Castle architects adapted, creating firing positions specifically designed for matchlock weapons. Wider angles, carefully calculated heights, overlapping fields of fire that maximize the impact of mass gunfire. Many of these castles never faced serious assault, which is perhaps the ultimate proof of their effectiveness. Warlords who studied castle defenses concluded that attacking well-designed fortifications was suicide. Better to maneuver around them, besiege them from distance, or negotiate than to throw armies against walls specifically designed to kill efficiently. Himeji Castle, completed in 1609, never experienced a serious attack. Its reputation as an impregnable fortress deterred potential invaders throughout the Tokugawa period. The defenses were so effective that testing them was considered pointless. Today, visitors walk Himeji's twisting paths and marvel at its aesthetic beauty. The white walls, elegant rooflines, and harmonious proportions. But every beautiful curve conceals tactical calculation. Every pleasing angle creates a killing field. The castle's beauty is inseparable from its function as a sophisticated murder machine. What makes Japanese castle defenses remarkable isn't individual features. It's their integration into comprehensive systems. The Ishigaki walls, Masugata gates, maze-like paths, stone-dropping windows, and loophole networks didn't work independently. They formed interlocking defensive layers where each element enhanced the others. An attacker who somehow scaled the Ishigaki wall would find himself in a Masugata killbox. Soldiers who breached a Masugata gate entered a maze designed to disorient and separate them. Those who navigated the maze discovered every passage covered by Sama firing positions. Anyone who reached a tower or gate faced stone-dropping windows above. Japanese military architects thought in terms of killing zones and probability. They couldn't prevent attacks, but they could make every foot of advance cost disproportionate casualties. They created fortifications where tactical advantages compounded. Where the longer attackers spent trying to breach defenses, the more vulnerable they became. This was warfare as mathematics, calculating angles of fire, measuring approach distances, designing geometry that transformed human psychology and physics into defensive weapons. The true genius of Japanese castle defenses wasn't that they were impregnable. Nothing is. It's that they made assaults so catastrophically expensive that enemies chose not to try. A warlord contemplating attack on a well-designed Japanese castle faced grim calculations. Lose thousands of troops in failed assaults, even if ultimately successful, suffer casualties that weaken you for subsequent conflicts. Give rival warlords time to exploit your committed forces, potentially achieve nothing if the siege dragged on. The defenses didn't just kill attackers, they killed the strategic logic of attack itself. That's the real lesson from Osaka, Himeji, and dozens of other Japanese castles. They weren't just stone and wood and clever architecture. They were military arguments written in spatial geometry, proving that sometimes the best defense isn't withstanding attack, it's making attack unthinkable. The next time you see a Japanese castle's elegant white walls and graceful curves, remember, you're looking at one of history's most sophisticated killing machines, where every beautiful detail conceals deadly purpose. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.